Joe Good and John Bad head to Newton. 30-year-old Julie has been missing for several days. Her mom, who lives abroad, signaled her daughter missing. Julie is married to Rick, whom no one has heard from. The two police officers head to Rick's to ask him some questions. There's no one in front of the house, but officers can see that the garage door is slightly ajar. What do you notice inside? Weird. Maybe they've both disappeared. In any case, there's no sign of a break-in. Maybe they just forgot to close the garage door. It's pretty clean for a garage, although there seems to be some kind of splash marks on the floor and ceiling. That said, various objects in the room, like the freezer, work tables, and wood chipper, all seem to have been deep cleaned. The difference in cleanliness level is fairly strange. Hello, gentlemen. I didn't expect to find the police at my house. Hello. We're looking for your wife. Her friends haven't heard from her in a while, and they're getting pretty worried. My wife? Just between us, things are a bit strained at the moment, so I'm not sure where she might be. She might be at her mom's in Denmark. What Rick doesn't know is that Joe and John have come here specifically at Julie's mom's request. This man is probably lying. What do you do? This guy seems like a real piece of work. I'm all in for taking him to the station and grilling him. Now, we could also play the long game, don't you think? You decide to wait and act as though you don't know anything. Good enough for us. Thanks, and have a great day. Joe, you know what you're doing, I hope. Yep, we're going to look into him and send a surveillance team to follow him discreetly and report back on his every move.
Rick is not a good husband. He cheated on Julie several times. You should know this. She once told me, "Mom, if anything happens to me, don't think it was an accident. Please, sir, find my daughter."
Thank you for your statement, ma'am. We'll do everything we can. At that very moment, Joe Good is contacted by the officers charged with following Rick.
There's a massive snowstorm out here. Our man left in his truck, but we lost him because of the lack of visibility. We've gone back to his place to wait.
Copy that, over. Joe, I looked into Rick's recent activity just before his wife disappeared. The man made several pretty bizarre purchases. Want to guess what they were? What do you think Rick bought? I have a feeling we're onto something. Rick bought a freezer and a wood chipper? Like the ones we saw in his garage? Exactly. Think it's time we went back for a bit more information. I just heard from our colleagues that Rick's back at home. Joe and John head back to question Rick in his garage. The first thing they notice? The freezer is missing. It wasn't working. I ended up just throwing it out. While they're interrogating Rick, Joe and John receive an important call from their colleague.
I just got testimony from a snowplow driver. He says he saw a truck driving strangely just now along the banks of the river outside the city. He described the truck and it matches that of our suspect. Thinks somebody should go have a look out there.
Shoot! Our man's fleeing in his truck. Move! The two detectives arrest Rick and send him to police headquarters. All right, let's head to that lake, John. This is where our witness says he saw the suspect. We're going to need to look for proof. What do you notice about this scene? It's hard to work in these conditions with all this snow. He must have come here for a reason. The two police officers found what seems to be a crown for a tooth, as well as a nail with red nail polish. But that's not all. There also seems to be pieces of bone and hair. They decide to bring everything back to run through the lab. After several hours of waiting, Joe and John finally get their results. Forensics proves that the pieces of bone, hair, the crown, and the nail all belong to Julie. The officers conclude that Julie was killed by her husband Rick. Rick then put her body into the freezer before putting it through the wood chipper. He then dumped the remains into the truck and brought them to the lake to attempt to bury them. The freezer has yet to be found. This is definitely the first time I've had a case in which a man is found guilty of murder without a body ever being recovered. He thought he could get away with it by going through all of that. He's continuing to claim his own innocence. He's given no explanation, nothing. Don't forget that this story is based on true events. Do you know this true story? Do you know any good true crime stories? Which is the creepiest? Comment now, and maybe we'll do an episode chronicling your suggestion. Tune in next time for another episode of Premeditated, a Riddle Me This production.